Good morning. A little louder. Good morning. Okay, thank you all for being here. We're just so excited to bring this conference to you. This is our first career development conference for the campus. And I'm going to come back to you in a minute with some basic information about the conference. And now what I'd like to do is turn the microphone over to John Wilton. He's our Vice Chancellor for Administration and Finance, to welcome you all here. And I'll come back after he comes.
Good. Well, good morning, everyone. And look, thanks very much to the organizers for, first of all, having the event, but secondly, for inviting me to come along and try and kick it off on a positive note. I had a sort of script here, and on the way driving in this morning, I sort of decided to abandon it a bit and do something slightly different. I wanted to start off by saying, look, I don't know how many here saw the announcement that the Chancellor and us, we put out yesterday on the change in salaries. Oh, good. Everyone, that's good. That's not a surprise, I guess. But, you know, I wanted to read a little bit about the rationale for that change, because I think it goes to the core of what this conference and meeting's about. And it says at the beginning, you know, for the last few years, you've helped us implement comprehensive reforms to improve efficiency and productivity through our operational excellence efforts and other initiatives designed to improve our performance, reduce operational costs, and maintain UC Berkeley's excellence. The point I'm trying to make here is this is not talking about, there's many reasons to raise salaries. And, you know, we're well aware of the fact that the salaries for non-representative staff have actually gone up by 3.5% in the last 5 years, which is simply not acceptable. But there are many reasons. But what this note talks about, I think for the first time, is the words efficiency and productivity. And it's very much the only way that we could take the only way we have the autonomy and the legal freedom to raise salaries within the UC system independent of the office of the president is by making what we call a market-based adjustment. And so one of the things that we found was that within our existing HR policies, we could actually put through this type of increase as long as it was related to market-based adjustment. And so the data that our HR department has collected, which shows that our salaries are at least 11% off market, and that was in 2012, provide a basis and a rationale for us to make this adjustment. Now, it's obvious that the adjustment is insufficient because it would still mean that there's a huge gap between what we pay at Berkeley and what the market would pay for a similar job. But it's a step in the right direction. But more importantly, it talks about these issues of efficiency and productivity. And the point I want to relate it back to the conference is that this whole meeting and training session is about the people here becoming more mobile, in brushing up on their ability to go to interviews, to present themselves, and to get more aware of the training and everything that's available at Berkeley. And I think that goes to the core of the issue, which is that the labor force, you know, in all parts of the economy, will necessarily become more dynamic and competitive. And it's not something, you know, we can put our head in the sands and wish was not the case. You know, make the point in many other forums that I speak to that as much as we may wish it, you know, Berkeley doesn't exist in a bubble. We work hard here and we spend a lot of hours here, so we tend to think of it as existing in its own little universe. But, you know, it obviously doesn't. I mean, we compete with other universities in order to attract faculty, attract students, and attract staff. But even just in the Bay Area, in order to attract our staff, we're competing against all the other people in the marketplace. So, you know, I think one of the underlying themes of this meeting is the fact that the marketplace is becoming much more dynamic And in order to thrive and enjoy it and survive in it, you have to adapt and become more dynamic along with the change in the marketplace. We can't just wish it away. And what I was very proud of was the fact that the Chancellor took that theme, took that initiative, and decided that we could take this step, albeit insufficient. At least it's in the right direction. So I just want to underline that, and I'm hoping that when you leave here, you talk about that increase very much in the context of efficiency and productivity. So one other way of talking about the issues today that was suggested was to sort of personalize it a little bit. Many of you don't know my background. I spent about 20-odd years in one institution called the World Bank in Washington. And when I look back, thinking about starting off this meeting, I realized that I actually changed jobs roughly every 3 years. I changed jobs. I was in Washington. I changed jobs. I was overseas, both in Asia and then in Europe, and then come back in Africa. And I was thinking about when I did that, and many times the two things that stand out is, one, I think a lot of it was a lot of risk-taking. Many of the jobs, when I think about it, I'm not quite sure I could do them. And I knew that there was a big downside of getting out of my comfort zone and going to do something else. But on the other hand, there was a fundamental belief that there was an alignment between the job and what I thought I could do. So I think there's two parts of being comfortable about moving more often. Is one, you have to be prepared to take some risks. But secondly, there is no point in taking a job that there's a clear misalignment between the job and your skill set. So you need to marry those two and be happy that you are taking a slight amount of risk, but you can actually step up to the plate and do the job in the long run. Even if, and this comes back to today, even if it requires more training and learning new skills. It's certainly something that I've done throughout my career. There's some interesting facts that surprised me. I asked the HR yesterday just to pull some numbers about how dynamic actually Berkeley's labour force already is. So in 2012, 986, so that's about 12% of the non-academic staff, receive salary increases via being reclassified into new jobs, promotions, or equity and merit increases. The same percent, about 12%, have been promoted since 2010. And there were 1,600 new hires since July of 2012. So, that is a very high number. So, the point I want to underscore is that there is a big turnover at Berkeley, and there is a lot of people moving between jobs already. So the picture that some people have of this place being fairly static and not having, refreshing its labour force, or people not being retrained, or being reclassified or promoted, is actually not backed up by the facts. The facts are sort of slightly different than that. So it's obvious that Berkeley already is a fairly dynamic place to work. But it's also true, as we said in the announcement on the salary, that the workplace is being redefined. Right? As we've said, I've tried to emphasize from the beginning, the nature of the work and what we do will always change. And there's a sort of uncomfortable feeling that it's changing at an accelerating rate. So we're all being asked to do more and learn new types of software and interact in different ways. And it's pushing us all out of our comfort zones. But that, I think, goes to the issue of this type of event and the importance of training. Again, I don't think the head in the sand approach, works in any length of run. And so I also asked for some data on the training. Do we offer enough training? And I'm sure that we don't. I was surprised that this is the first conference of its type. When I looked at the agenda and what it offers, you would think we'd be doing this on a regular basis. So I really applaud the people who've managed to pull this off. But we do need to do it on a regular basis. I'm reminded of one other story of my son who, went through the whole school and university and bankrupted his father. But, I think one of the best skills he learned, despite all that formal training, was something he did informally, which is he joined the debate club. And the discipline of being able to stand up and articulate in competition the main parts of an argument and then rebut somebody else's arguments is actually a tremendously useful life skill. I mean, when you think about it, a lot of meetings and a lot of going to interview and interacting is being able to summarize what you're thinking and pass it on to somebody else verbally. And when I thought about it, it's amazing that that type of skill, sort of standing up and debating someone in public, is actually not part of a core curriculum. You would think that that would be a sort of life skill that people would be taught. But anyway, going back to this, I won't read them all, but some things that jumped out to me, there's 529 individuals have taken one sponsored tuition course, 7,372 in-person classes completed campus-wide. This 2,675 CoreWe sponsored in-person training completions. Attending key classes, 1,278. Career counselling, in the hundreds. So, the point I'm making here, and I'm sure others will go back to it, is that there is a lot of training going on. There's another subsidy program to enable staff to take some extra education courses at Berkeley too. So there are ways of enhancing the toolkit. We'd love to do more, and this goes back to the salary issue. We'd love to do more, but you have to put it in, as I said, we're not in a bubble. I expect today to go back to one of the great things about coming here is I haven't looked at my email except for 5 minutes, but I expect to go back to get a barrage of emails about how the hell can Berkeley do this. The Office of the President said you can't do it. We have sequestration just about to kick in. The governor has restricted, why can Berkeley afford to do this? I think the answer simply is that, we're taking our own destiny in our own hands, and we have pushed forward with efficiency gains and productivity gains. Just like campus share services, that's not universally loved, and it pushes people into places that are uncomfortable. But unless we do that type of thing, we can't move ahead in paying people a higher salary because productivity is not increasing. So again, all these things are linked, and what we're trying to do is position Berkeley as being on the forefront of this stuff and not playing catch-up. But the point I'm making is we are in a resource-constrained environment. We would love to do more, but we are trying to send signals, that we're aware of the problem and we'll do as much as we possibly can within the system that we have. So that, that brings you to the point, one of the points, which is that we are moving to a more sort of professionalized labor force, whereby, we're hoping that we can clarify career paths in the university. In many cases, people join a school or a college, and it's a sort of fairly nebulous definition of what the job is, and you end up doing 10 things in 10 different functional areas. And there's always going to be jobs, a desperate need for people who can do that, who can cross from finance to HR to research to IT. But probably as we go forward, there'll be more specialization and more defined career paths within the functional units, which will require sort of professionalization of the labor force along those lines. So again, that goes back to training and retooling, because within those functional disciplines, none of them stay still. There's constant change in every one of those areas, and there are new skills and the metrics that people need to learn. The last point I'd want to end on is But going back to this morning, I was looking at the operating principles that we've developed, and Kira sitting back there is the man that was in charge of most of this, but he was only the figurehead. He has a great team underneath him. And it struck me again how relevant some of these principles are to the points that we're discussing today. I mean, I'm not going to read them all, but the second one, we imagine and innovate. It says we develop sustainable solutions that help us meet campus goals. The next bit says we are willing to take intelligent risks, make mistakes, and learn from our experience. Again, it's speaking to the fact that we live in a dynamic environment. We have to take some risks, and we have to be able to adapt when we get things wrong. You know, there's a tremendous culture at Berkeley of risk aversion, which I think maybe comes over from the academic side of the shop, where they like to do research at incredibly thoroughly because they publish it and it'll be out there forever. But running the institution, we don't have to run the institution as if it's an academic enterprise. Yeah, admin and finance part of the place can be a lot more dynamic, and we can course correct as we go along. So that's one of the aspects of Imagine and Innovate. The other one is, which was an interesting one that came out of all of the feedback that Kira got when he was doing all this work. It says we measure supervisor, individual, and team performance. This is the one that says about we're accountable to each other. And we make transparent decisions and follow through on our commitments. We recognize excellence and give and receive constructive feedback at all levels. The point there, though, that goes straight to the issue of being efficient and being productive and recognizing it and trying to reward it in the system. Again, you know, we face all sorts of constraints in our ability to reward excellence in Berkeley because of the overarching HR framework that some of us are given. But, you know, we're pushing it where we can in trying to move us much more to a system where we can proactively reward excellence. So if I leave you with one thing, is that I think this type of gathering is extremely important. I think the skills that you will learn today are really valuable. And I think the most important thing is it's starting to equip you for a much more dynamic and changeable labour force, which, in my opinion, is inevitable as we adapt and grow. And particularly as Berkeley, you know, the goal that we have is we're going to be as excellent on the administration and finance side as we are on the academic side. There's no reason why the premier public university in the world can't be as good in terms of running the place as we are at doing the teaching and research part of what we do. So with that, I'm going to hand it back, and thanks very much for the invitation.
Okay, I'm back. And I am Sedalia Reel. Sid is what you'll see on my name badge, so feel free to call me Sid. I'm the Director of Staff Diversity Initiatives in the Office of Equity and Inclusion, and I'm also chair for this event. This is something that has actually been in the making for several years, and I'm not sure if they're both in the room, but two people who worked with me to come up with this idea of the conference. One is Kelly Howard, if you'll stand for a minute, and also Inette Dishler. Are you here? We have been talking about this. Thank you. We have been talking about the need to help staff figure out what their career can and should be. And in a lot of instances, people are focused just on their one particular job. We know that with Career Compass, jobs changed. We also know that career pathing is one of the other aspects of our HR system that will be in place. But what we want you to do today is create your own career path. You're going to have exposure to a lot of resources and people, classes, other things, even networking that can help you in this journey of your own about what your career can be. So thank you all for being here, and give yourselves a hand for being here, all right? So I'm going to just quickly go through a few logistics for the day, and one of them that's really important to people is, where are the bathrooms? If you go out this door and all the way to the right, you'll see a sign that says restrooms on the right-hand side, just before the stairs going down. I would also like to ask you to please turn your cell phones off or put them on vibrate so that you can give all of the presenters your full attention during the sessions. In just a couple of minutes, we're going to move into those sessions, and going out this door, even out the door in the back, all of the sessions are down to the right. Where the food station is, just to the left of that is Coach's Corner, and that's where the individual and small group coaching sessions are taking place. They did fill up rather quickly during the registration, but we actually do still have some openings. So check there and sign up if there's an opening and you're interested in getting some more individual coaching. Also, just to talk to you a little bit about the schedule, in your booklets you should have a schedule that looks like this. Page 3 has the full conference program, and when we go to our sessions, which hopefully we'll do in a couple of minutes, here in this room, this is the Crutch Theater, Jim Callenber is going to be talking about developing a job search. And I mentioned already that room 102, which is just to the left of the food, is where the Coach's Corner is. The other rooms, the room 104 is all the way down, and you go down the stairs to the right. And then rooms 203 and 204 are actually upstairs. So you'll see actually 2 stairways over there. Take the first stairway and go up to those rooms. We are depending on you on being prompt to get to these sessions. We have really a packed agenda for the day, and we want everyone to get the most that they can out of the sessions. And be sure to be on time for the 2 keynote sessions we have, because we're actually having a raffle, so hopefully you have a raffle ticket. If you didn't get one, pick one up out at the table out front. And our lunch and luncheon keynote will be in the Great Hall, which is the next building over, and there will be some volunteers to guide you down there for lunch. And we'll have Tamara Steele. She's going to be talking about getting to the heart of success. And we're really excited to have her there to talk to all of us. And then in our closing, we have a closing keynote from Daniel Siddiqui, and he is going to be talking about working with purpose. That's going to be back here in the Crutch Theater. And so with that, I'm going to invite you all, grab a cup of coffee or water or whatever you need, and get to your sessions. And during the day, if you have a chance, be sure to stop by the resource table and check that out. And one final thing is that both of the keynoters are selling the books that they'll be talking about in their sessions. So there's a book selling table out front as well. So again, thank you for being here and have a great day. I'll see you back at lunch down in the Great Hall.